วัสดีค่ะ Welcome to the Mindfulness Show by Mindfulness Academy of Asia. Today with me is Dr. Kevin Ruth, Managing Director of Educational Collaborative for International Schools. Hello, Dr. Kevin. How are you?
Fine. Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. I just heard you flew in this morning.
I did.
Okay, why don't you tell us a little bit more about ECIS? What is its function that's so much have to do with education?
So ECIS is sort of a marker for international quality. So this is actually our 55th year, so it's a kind of a nice anniversary year.
Can I say you're old? No, you're not old.
Yes, you can say that.
Old.
You can say that. Yes. So I believe we're the eldest or the second eldest, perhaps, association for international schools in the world. We've been part of this exciting universe of international schools, which has grown from very few to very many yes, over many years, but also specifically in the last 15 to 20 years. There's been such a growth, and of course you would have seen it here in the Thai market for certain. We've worked with schools over the years in areas from teacher development and leadership development to data benchmarking. We used to do accreditation, and now we're more of an independent and influential voice with accrediting bodies or inspecting bodies. We work on policy. So we really work with schools at their foundational levels, including even helping them at their school startups, but also mature schools.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you help with schools' improvement on every level and every scope.
And complementing that, there's an entire thought leadership piece. So whether if it's on topics of mindfulness or curriculum and assessment, how do we assess children today? Why are we assessing? Are we assessing for the correct things? So we do a fair amount of research, and then preparing that in a way that we can relate to educators, as well as owners, investors, etc., to say, let's make sure that we're doing school for the right reasons, and are we really holding the child at the center?
Wow.
So really important.
So, but for you personally, do you have your favorite system? Like, are you pro-American system or the British system? What's your take on that?
I don't have one particular system that is a favorite. I'm always looking for what are leading practices that have positive impacts on children, no matter the system.
Right.
And usually it's not a one-size-fits-all environment. So I think it would be really difficult to say that there's just one that is the best. I often hear that actually as a question. What is the best system?
Right.
Because we want to institute the best system.
Right.
And it is not as straightforward. Unfortunately, in some ways, it's not as straightforward and simple as saying, this is it, and if you plug it in this way, it works well.
How would you define a good school?
A good school is one that creates positive outcomes for students. Those outcomes might be academic.
Okay.
They could be vocational.
Okay.
They could be technical.
Okay.
There's no one best system. There's no one best way to do school either. I think it really has to center on what are the child's strengths.
Right.
And how do we bring those to the fore, because otherwise I think it would be quite challenging for the child to have a successful, happy life, satisfied, nourishing life.
How do educators measure the academic achievement? Is it through test scores? Is it the way kids learn? What is the current trend in international education today?
To me, there's sort of macro trends, and then there are fads.
Okay.
That come and go. So the fads
So
go.
fads are
go.
fashion.
Yes, fads are fashionable for a certain time, and then they go away.
goes.
So, for example, let's look at learning styles.
Okay.
And that is verbiage or terminology that's still lingering, and it's sort of in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, 2005, 6, 7. That was really quite popular. I remember having been trained in learning styles and so forth. And a number of us as practitioners at the time were a little bit suspect about it. We understood the general concepts.
Right.
But this has been largely disproved in the past number of years. That learning styles as presented and categorized, etc., are largely uninformed, and really one cannot correspond to a certain degree learning styles with quote-unquote successful outcomes for a student. So that fits in the sort of fad category, but the language has remained in fairly large pockets throughout, not just international education, but education in different systems as well. So teachers will still often talk about that, but actually from a research side, there's no meaningful evidence base that would suggest that that has a massive effect on children.
Jack Ma once said that it is best if educators can help the child or children be well-rounded with the art of playing music, the art of team working, the human skills that robots or machines cannot do. Do you think that schools in the present day are gearing toward that kind of learning, where academic is not everything, but the life skill is also just as important?
The best schools over time never stopped doing that. They've always always maintained that you must do, for example, sport, you must do music and drama and art, and yes, you do academic subjects, the concept of the well-rounded person.
Back in April, when I was at your conference in Lisbon, there was a huge topic from a researcher that well-being is the new education realm that educators want to implement in schools. Could you please talk more about that?
Some schools actually have I'll forget the exact title of the position, but sort of a director level equivalent, a coordinator of like positive education.
Wow.
If we look at positive psychology from the University of Pennsylvania and Marty Seligman's work and so forth, that's probably the most popular element that I've seen. So these schools are then beginning to identify and collaborate with other schools that are doing similar projects. And we even have a special interest group whose original name was the Flourishing Committee. And that was borrowing very directly from Seligman's work. But it's about positive psychology. And the whole social emotional literacy movement is there for a reason. One of the really frightening facts, and this will be just looking at the US market in particular, but US universities, the selective colleges and universities, have reported frighteningly that about 60% of first-year students, freshmen, are seeking some sort of mental health solution or counseling or whatever we're going to call that, but they've got mental health issues on their radar that they're dealing with, or they've just recently developed, or they've had for some time, all kinds of things. Where are those kids coming from? They're coming from our schools.
Oh, wow.
Right? They're coming from, I don't just mean ECIS, I mean they're coming from...
It doesn't matter whether the school is rich or poor, which continent, the trend is pretty much the same.
The trend is really quite strong. I mean, from a research perspective, I would love to see data from other cultures and universities in those cultures, and what are they seeing for students seeking mental health services at the university level. But it's not manifesting itself in the first year of university studies. It manifests itself earlier.
Oh, wow.
And so school directors are taking very seriously, as they should.
Having been all around the world in every continent, do you see that maybe schools in a certain continent like America or Europe, they may need mindfulness more than others, or do you feel it's pretty much the
everyone
same?
Benefits from mindfulness. I mean, I probably wouldn't say that one culture needs it more than the other. I think everybody benefits from it, and I think we also experience it in different ways because of our cultural states of being, states of mind, etc. But everyone can benefit from it, and it doesn't have to be heavily programmed. It can be just a nice light programming, where maybe we're not even using direct words with kids about it, depending on their developmental age.
Right.
But just those moments of frankly, coming down to the heart of it, is just awareness of self.
Right.
That is the most important element that there can be, because if you want to be balanced as an individual, first and foremost, you have to know who you are, how you work, what calms you down, what centers you. If you're feeling a certain way, how do you bring that back?
So today we learned so much from you. It's been so much fun. I wish that you could visit Thailand more often so we could have more chats, but it's been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Thank you very much, Dr. Kevin.
Thank you.